here we have these teams. No Colossal, of course, but really excited for you, I'm sure.
Oh my goodness, Lapras is on the team. Lapras is one of my favorite Pokemon to compete with. It looks like we're seeing Lapras lead, so it looks like Bandita is rocking a Zacian, a Lapras, an Amoonguss, Thundurus, Yveltal, and Incineroar. And man, Lapras is always so fun to see because of that Gmax resonance. I'm very curious to see if this Lapras is going to go for a turn 1 Dynamax. And of course, on Beta's side, we are seeing a Spectrier, a Solgaleo, Kyogre, Amoonguss, Articuno. Interesting pick, and Raichu. What are you feeling with these two teams so far?
I'm loving the Spectrier pick. You know, when you can only have 2 restricted, you can bring Spectrier as a 3rd Pokemon. So, you know, not having that Calyrex Shadow Rider, but having the Spectrier and what it's able to do, I think, is a really Pokemon to be bringing in this format. Raichu, a Pokemon I know Crystal has been looking to bring into this tournament, so interested to see it on another team as well, especially because it can handle so many things. It gets that fake out access, which is really nice to have, and it leads with that Solgaleo, and like you said, Amoonguss and that shiny Lapras coming out of the gate.
Oh man, so yeah, we have this Amoonguss here to add some redirection, and of course Solgaleo with that full body ability. There's the fake out pressure on that Raichu side. It looks like we are going to see a Dynamax turn 1 with a Gmax resonance. Ooh, yeah, we're definitely going to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, Gmax Resonance is a move that can be really devastating if you get it off early, especially with Light Clay on that Lapras. Like you said, able to set up what is basically an Aurora Veil with that Gmax Resonance. Getting, you know, a Light Screen and a Reflect Up really bulks up your team. Basis of the Solgaleo is going to have a hard time breaking through, even with that Sunsteel Strike if it goes for it. Raichu, like you said, Fake Out Pressure is going to be nice into this Amoonguss because it's not going to have to maybe worry about getting spored. You know, depends on how these players end up moving for this first turn, but here we go.
Oh, here we go. Looks like we are going to see the big giant Solgaleo coming to play. What a big cat over here. And we are going to see that Lapras as well. So battle of the Gigantamax Pokemon right now. And of course, as this is game 1, we are going to get a lot of information this turn about what our opponent on or what Candela is going to be showing off right here.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to know as well. I mean, it's pretty obvious that Solgaleo is going to be faster, but it's good to just kind of have that cemented in your mind, especially if you're going for something. You don't have that speed control on your side here. You know, no Icy Wind from the Lapras as it's in that Gigantamax form as well.
All right, so we are going to see the fake out come out into the Amoonguss. A great play to avoid any sort of spore shenanigans or things like that. The Max Quake is going to go into the Amoonguss right here, trying to get rid of that redirection as soon as possible and get the special defense boost as well.
Yeah, that special defense boost is going to be absolutely huge for the bulky Solgaleo, but this does allow for that Gmax Resonance to come off from this Lapras, going into that Raichu, possibly breaking a Focus Sash if it's holding one, because that can be an item it carries pretty often. Most importantly, going to set up these screens. Solgaleo, though, hasn't targeted into that Lapras yet, so that Lapras is still able to sit pretty comfortable for that next turn, and Amoonguss is going to be able to possibly go for something like a Spore now. You saw that that Fake Out didn't do too much damage, of course, but really importantly, that Max Quake didn't even get it under 50%, so we can take another one.
Yeah, oh man, beefing up their team, and it looks like we're going to see a swap into the Yveltal there. So we're going to see how our opponent comes back. Okay, Amoonguss is swapping out. We're bringing in the Yveltal here, potentially looking at a prediction here for another Max Quake.
Yeah, absolutely. Could be a prediction. It's tough to switch an Yveltal into that Raichu. Brutal swing from the Raichu, though. Really nice goal to be able to get some really nice weakness policy boost there onto its partner Pokemon. So now Solgaleo not nearly worried so much about this, about the screens here from that Gmax Resonance. However, Sunsteel Strike into that Yveltal, not worrying to, or sorry, Max Steel Spike, I'm reading so many words, into that Yveltal, gets an extra defense boost there and gets well over 50% of that HP and Max Geyser from this Lapras. So just trying to get that damage off, maybe get that weather off that Raichu, sitting so bulky right now.
It was not able to get the KO. You are going to get the Rain Up, which will boost any further water type attacks. Looks like a swap is being considered here, right back into Amoonguss. Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult situation right here. Lapras, without having a weakness policy, and as we could see that it was a light clay Lapras, is not going to be doing as much damage, and instead is going to be focusing on its buffs with that Gmax Resonance and just staying on the field and being annoying.
Yeah, absolutely. This Lapras possibly trying to go for something like a Perish Song endgame, but in order to do that, you got to get 2 Pokemon off the field on your opponent's side. Your Yveltal's not doing a whole lot here. Like, it's going to be able to possibly get off some great Dark-type moves into this Solgaleo, just to try and get some big damage off, but the Solgaleo looks so bulky, especially now having that weakness policy, and Yveltal probably not going to be sitting too comfortable, whereas Amoonguss with that Regenerator is going to be able to handle something like a Max Quake if it comes at it. Volt Switch from the Raichu, though, not going to do too much damage.
Oh, that did absolutely nothing. We're going to see who comes out here. Again, when it comes to game 1, we are getting a lot of information, like which 4 Pokemon did Candela bring. So we're about to see who is hiding in the back. Looks like Kyogre is going to come out onto the field, which this rain is not looking too good when you have a Kyogre on here. Max Steel Spike's going to be going into that Amoonguss, doing more damage. Is it enough to get the knockout? No, that Amoonguss does hang on with 17 HP. Kyogre is getting a defense boost, as well as that Solgaleo right there. Lapras is going to go for that Max Geyser. We're going to see who it's going to jump into. It looks like onto the Kyogre. What a fantastic switch. That does no damage whatsoever.
Yeah, Candela, they were able to go for a great switch into that Kyogre, really able to tank with that Kyogre, holding leftovers as well. So you can maybe see if this is a Combine variant on that Kyogre. Could be running a little bit slower. Solgaleo and Lapras, their Dynamax turns have ended. But most importantly, Weakness Policy wasn't able to get rid of this Amoonguss, so we can hold on for another turn, but it is facing down those double targeting moves from Kyogre. So you may have to go for something like a Pollen Puff, try and boost up your Lapras if it's about to take a bunch of damage, or consider swapping just to get a little bit more Regenerator boost and send in this Amoonguss later. If you're not carrying something like Grass Knot, you're not going to be able to do a ton of damage onto that Kyogre as well. And it's just one of those Pokemon that it's great supportive defensively, but if you put it into a situation like this where you've got to really boost it up Solgaleo, it's sitting so bulky, you can't roar it out and find a way to get rid of it quickly, then you're going to be, sitting for a long end game where the Solgaleo is just going to be able to tank the Pokemon that you have. And Lapras is great to set up your own bulk, but it doesn't last forever, unlike as long as a Solgaleo can sit on screen.
Yeah, and it looks like this Kyogre is going to go for a Protect here, and Amoonguss going for that Rage Powder to protect that Lapras one turn, but it looks like we were seeing more of a defensive play here. Solgaleo is going to go for that Sun Steel Strike. It is going to hurt, I bet. Let's see, who is it going into?
Gonna have to go into that Amoonguss because of that Rage Powder, and that should be plenty enough to knock it out there. So Amoonguss has sung its last song, I think, here. Well, Lapras is hoping to sing another Freeze Dry, though, into that Protect, and not gonna be able to do anything.
Unfortunate.
Absolutely unfortunate, yeah. Sorry, oh my goodness.
Oh, no worries. Listen, I blame the Discord delay. While the game's far from over yet, we are going to be seeing some pivoting and adjusting to kind of get out of this situation. But of course, still learning bit by bit about the movesets.
Yeah, Yveltal is a nice spring in here because the Solgaleo is now out of Dynamax. You can go for Oblivion Wing to try and get some health back, but most importantly, you've got access to that Sucker Punch, you've got access to Foul Play, a couple of really nice Dark-type moves that'll be able to do some nice damage into that Solgaleo if you're, able to get them off without too much trouble. If you're able to get an Oblivion Wing off, get some health back, that could be really nice for you, but trying to get rid of the Solgaleo early is gonna, I say early, we're pretty much right into that mid-game now, but trying to get rid of the Solgaleo before it can do too much damage into your Lapras and allow your last Pokemon in there, possibly your last restricted, to be able to come in and do damage, really kind of sweep up this end game, is going to be huge, because that Solgaleo is the one main thing standing between you and the rest of your game plan. Foul play into Solgaleo, though, not enough.
It was not enough. It was a lot of damage. Oh, and the avoid! That's always a feels bad, man, as we say on Twitch. Unfortunate. It's going to do some damage into the Lapras. And then, okay, we're seeing the Ice Beam come out here into the Yveltal. Is it going to be able to knock it out? Yveltal does hang on a little bit here. Oh, there's that. Yep, there's that flinch. Oh, so unfortunate. And we're going to see the leftovers give that Kyogre a bit more HP back. So tough position.
Yeah, you win some, you lose some with Rock Slide. You get the flinch on the Lapras, which is great, but you miss that knockout on the Yveltal, able to kind of deal with that Ice Beam there. So Yveltal going to be able to probably take out the Solgaleo this turn, maybe with a Sucker Punch if it chooses to go for it, but you saw how fast it was, so that Foul Play is going to be enough to knock it out and allow for whoever Jessica has in back, especially if you allow your Yveltal to get sacked this turn, you will get that free switch in.
Yeah, so we're going to be seeing a Protect come in here, and we're going to see what, okay, and Yveltal is going to go for the Snarl. It's not going to touch that Solgaleo. It's going to do damage to that Kyogre. It's not going to be doing nearly enough. We are going to see a drop right here, special attack drop, and Kyogre is going to Ice Beam. I assume that's going to go right into the Yveltal. It's going to finish off that poor bacon bird. It was nice knowing you, little birdie there, but all right, I think we're gonna see if Jessica can come out of this. It's looking a little tough though. If I was in this position, I would be thinking about some game 2 strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. That freeze dry though into that Kyogre is enough to kind of make it so you're mitigating that water spout damage by a good amount. Plus the rain has stopped at this point. You don't have too many turns left on your Aurora Veil. I think you maybe have 3 if I'm counting correctly now because of that rain, maybe 4. Zacian going to be that last switch in, but I think being able to protect that Solgaleo, having it sit on the field and not worry too much about the Yveltal, you almost wonder if, you know, that Yveltal, it's carrying 4 attacking moves, so most likely that Assault Vest variant, they're going to be able to do damage, but not going to be able to stall out a Protect when you've got a Kyogre with a fully accurate Ice Beam sitting on the opposite side. And Zacian's going to be able to maybe do some good damage to Solgaleo as long as it can get off that move, but it is dealing with a Kyogre that can go for an Ice Beam, can go for an Origin Pulse, and, you know, it can take at least 2 more freeze dries based on how much damage it took from that last one. So Kyogre, especially with those boosts that it got from its partner Solgaleo during its Dynamax, is definitely able to sit a lot more comfortably here, even without that rain. You can still swap it in and out. You have 2 more Pokemon in the back that you can kind of move freely between, and Kyogre is a Pokemon right now that if you really need to save it for an endgame, you probably can. Origin Pulse isn't the most accurate move, and you've already lost a little bit of accuracy with that Rock Slide, especially with that flinch there, but it's probably the best bet that you have. Solgaleo able to come back, though, going to stay another day. Raichu coming in, getting more fake out pressure onto that Zacian, which is going to be huge. Zacian going for a Sacred Sword here into that Raichu, actually just going to sack that Raichu off right now, possibly get a free switch in later. Kyogre going for an Ice Beam as well, so big damage. Sorry, I just spoke right over your turn.
Oh no, absolutely, yeah. And at that point, that Raichu really, you know, it didn't really have much left to do, so that was a really great switch in. Kyogre is not coming off this field. It's hanging in there, getting that leftovers back. It does not want to go down. It's also really interesting to see that the Zacian is running Sacred Sword. You know, throughout this tournament, we've been seeing a couple of different moves on Zacian, like Play Rough, and so that is something that was revealed here that Candela will also be able to think about.
Yeah, Sacred Sword, an interesting move choice, right? Because then you have to see what did it drop to run Sacred Sword, right? Like, what is your drop of moves? You get 4 moves on Zacian, you're going to be running Behemoth Blade 100% of the time, and Solgaleo can come back in here. It is slower than this Zacian, but it does have Protect at its side.
Right, we're about to see. There are some reads that are going to have to go into effect here. Looks like going for a Hydro Pump into that Solgaleo. Oh, everyone's HP is so low, but we'll see what happens. It really goes to show how important speed tiers are as well when the games get really close like this.
Yeah, and also if you think about possibly a Perish Song endgame here, it's not a great spot because you have, you know, 3 Pokemon left for Candela, but they're at low HP for both of them. So even something like if you were running Icy Wind, you'd be able to do a pretty decent chunk of damage onto these Pokemon, but you're hitting that end game where things start to get a little bit dicey. You have to predict those protects going forward so that you're not taking unnecessary damage, or that you're not protecting when they're also protecting and then you don't have it, but Sacred Sword into Kyogre is going to knock at least one of them out.
Yeah, oh, Kyogre finally goes down. The Earthquake's gonna come out here. Let's see how much damage this does. You know, both Pokemon are hanging on there. So we're seeing those debuffs playing a bit of an effect. The Hydro Pump's gonna go into the Solgaleo here. I don't know if it's gonna do that much damage. It is going to be able to knock it out. Awesome, that was great.
Yeah, I was actually almost expecting a miss there. Aurora Veil also wearing off here. So now both of these Pokemon fairly unprotected, but Candela has 1 Pokemon in the back. I don't know if we've seen it. It is that Articuno. Articuno Kanto form, so it is going to be able to not love taking a Steel type move and not love maybe taking another Ice type move from this Lapras. But at this point, too, you can possibly just protect. I don't know if this Articuno can hit both of your Pokemon at once, unless it has something like an Icy Wind, but even then, that's not really doing enough damage to put you into a good position.
Yeah, and so we're going to see this Behemoth Blade come in. Let's see how much damage this does right here. It looks like, oh my goodness, and that's enough to knock it out. You know, I was worried about Jessica's side, but that Articuno was not able to seal the game. Oh my goodness, and that's game 1. Wow.
Yeah, an awesome game 1 here from Jessica. Really nice way to play out that endgame when you're stuck with 2 Pokemon left. That Amoonguss switching in and out, having a little bit of help from that Regenerator ability is really huge, especially because you were able to take a bit of damage. But I think that Rock Slide miss was crucial because that gave Jessica 1 more turn for herself to get a little bit more pressure out of that Yveltal, even if you weren't able to go for an attack into that Solgaleo due to the protect on that next turn, you still forced it onto the field for a little bit longer and made that Kyogre target you instead. So able to get more damage with a freeze dry onto that Kyogre and, make it a lot easier to knock out, put both of those Pokemon really on the back foot. And looking at that last Pokemon, it being that Articuno wasn't able to really put any pressure on that. Articuno was waiting for that Zacian to get off the field so it could come in safely, and it never got that opportunity.
Yeah, so we are going to see if there's going to be any adjustments. Looks like the same leads coming out from Jessica's side. What do you think is going to happen on Beta's side? Do you think there's going to be an adjustment there?
I think you have to, right? I almost want to see that Calyrex go a little bit, or sorry, the Spectrier. I'm so used to Calyrex. I would love to see the Spectrier come in place of that Articuno, possibly have something in the back that, even though it may be pretty fragile, you can get a lot of offensive pressure off. Amoonguss could be a great way to deter from either of the Pokemon that, possibly have single target. You don't really have any double targeting moves on Jessica's side there, so you have a pretty good chance, besides maybe a Snarl, you have a pretty good chance of sending that Amoonguss in and just being really annoying. And going for something like those Rage Powders, if you're able to help your partner Pokemon, Amoonguss and Kyogre work great together because you can go for a Pollen Puff, boost your Kyogre's HP back up, allow it to get more powerful water spouts off, or even just Rage Powder. Spores are a really great way. If you can start putting your Pokemon to sleep on the opponent's side of the field, then you can kind of start to gain a lot more momentum as they kind of just sit there and click buttons and get really mad at their Nintendo Switch for not working. So
oh my gosh, absolutely. So let's see who's going to be coming out here. It looks like Raichu and Amoonguss, two pretty supportive Pokemon coming out here. Again, we are seeing the fake out pressure, and Amoonguss and Lapras, same lead. If it's not broke, don't fix it. That's what they always say, huh?
Absolutely. I think the one thing to be concerned about here, this Raichu, not going to really be able to fake out as long as you go for that G-Max Resonance once again, but you have to worry about the Spore here, because the Spore from that Amoonguss onto your Lapras is really going to put a halt to things, so you may have to be more careful about taking that out, or maybe switching your Lapras around, protecting it, not sending into Dynamax, so that you're able to preserve all of your Dynamax turns for when you're fully awake and able to utilize them, because that's where Lapras really thrives. Raichu, though, going to be able to also put on pressure with some really strong electric type attacks, which I think is Candela's best chance of dealing with this Lapras, but Lapras is going to protect.
Yeah, a safe protect to protect against this fake. Oh, the fake out does go into the Amoonguss. That does make a lot of sense for the redirection. Spore is going to go into the Lapras. Great protect right here, just as predicted. Don't want to be put to sleep so early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And at least it makes it a little bit tougher now, right? Because that fake out's off the field, so you can go for a Rage Powder, but the Amoonguss on the opposite side of the field isn't going to be affected because it's that grass type. So now you have to worry a lot more about maybe getting this Raichu to sleep, or just trying to get this Raichu out of the way, knowing that there's a really good chance you could get put to sleep this turn. I think that Amoonguss is going to be able to go for something pretty annoying, but instead it's going to come right out of the gate.
Oh, and here comes that Solgaleo here to be a menace once again. All right, and we are going to see the Dynamax here coming out from Lapras, and I believe we saw, are we see a Resonance here? We're about to find out.
Yeah, I wasn't paying too much attention as they were clicking, because I was my brain is reading 80 things at once and should have been reading that one, but Resonance would be the right choice, right? Because then you're able to get a bunch of damage off onto the Raichu and do a pretty decent chunk and set your screens.
Oh, we are going to see a Nuzzle here, going to add the paralysis to the Amoonguss, slowing the Amoonguss, and also adding that that flinch chance where it's going to be paralyzed. Okay, we are going to see this Resonance. Definitely want to set up that Aurora Veil effect, right, with the G-Max Resonance, so it's going to boost those defenses, which we saw last game. It was very, very nice with the Light Clay, how long it lasted.
Yeah, not a ton of damage though. Spore goes through that paralysis into the Raichu. Raichu going to be taking a little nap here, and that's going to make it a lot easier for Jessica moving forward, because that Raichu's not going to be able to put on that really tough pressure from something like a Thunderbolt, or even just putting a Nuzzle on that Lapras. If you can't put it to sleep, you can paralyze it, and you can maybe stop it from getting as many attacks off, maybe get that 25% chance to fully paralyze on that turn, and you lose a whole max move. So this Solgaleo too, we saw that it was the max move of the max Pokemon of choice in that last game, so it could go for a Dynamax this turn, have access to that Steel Spike, which is going to do a really nice amount of damage into that Lapras, and also have an extra turn of Dynamax by the end of it, because we saw that those Dynamaxes ran out on the same turn in game one. It kind of put them both at equal footing at the end, and having a later Dynamax can sometimes really help, especially if you're running a bulkier Pokemon like that Solgaleo, who really likes to get all of those boosts moving forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, in the last game, we did see them Dynamax at the same time, which put things on an even playing field. But now we are going to have Candela have the advantage when it comes to having an extra Dynamax turn. So, yep, as predicted right here, we are going to see Solgaleo come big and strong, likely to put a steel move onto the field. So let's look at this big cat. Is Solgaleo a cat? That's the ultimate question. A lion, a cat. That's the ultimate question right here.
Lions are just big cats. It's fine. It's all the same.
Yeah, so we're going to see what this Solgaleo is going to do. It's standing so tall. Oh, and that Raichu is, yep, taking its first turn of sleep. Sleeping on the job. There's that max steel spike coming in on that Yveltal. Let's see. It's not going to do too much damage there, but again, we are going to see the steel defense boosts going up here.
Yeah, those defense boosts are absolutely huge, and that Yveltal switching in is really nice because it wasn't taking something like a max rockfall like we saw from that rock slide. Max hailstorm though into the Raichu, or sorry, max geyser into that Raichu. Pretty good chunk of damage. Going to make it so that there's some rain on the field coming in. We saw Candela, they had that Kyogre in the back, so that Kyogre could once again come in and kind of deal with the max geyser if you're not able to switch. But I think Raichu, you just kind of want to force it awake or force a, sack that Pokemon and allow your Kyogre to come in, because Raichu is going to be one of those Pokemon in your team that at this point, if it can't wake up, it's just kind of a sitting duck out there. So you need to try and use it strategically to allow yourself to get a Pokemon in that can maybe handle this situation a little bit better. But this is looking so carbon copy to what we saw in game 1, except for Yveltal being out. I think Yveltal possibly having access to Sucker Punch right now is going to be really nice. And also, even Foul Play, because you are running faster than that Solgaleo, you don't even really need to use it.
Yeah, and we are going to see this swap come into Amoonguss, which is going to be great for Candela, who's not going to have that Sucker Punch go off right there. Look at that failing. Unfortunate. And then we are going to see the Max Rockfall come in. Let's see. Is that after the Yveltal? It is. That's going to do a lot of damage, but not enough to knock it out. So it's still standing pretty on the battlefield right here. We are going to see a change in weather to Sandstorm, so that is going to be quite annoying, doing some extra chip damage. Oh, but that didn't last very long, because with the Max Geyser right here into the Solgaleo, the rain is going to come back. So we're seeing some weather wars out here.
Yeah, weather wars indeed, but I think having the Amoonguss out here once again puts pressure on Jessica, because Jessica now has to worry. Her Dynamax turns are over. She's facing a Pokemon that, she only has single target attacks except for Snarl, right? Snarl is the only thing that'll hit every single Pokemon on there. But with Yveltal, you do have the Amoonguss out there. So if it's going for a Rage Powder, you can get a bunch of HP back with that Oblivion Wing if you really need to. But then you're also dealing with a Rage Powder, which, your Lapras isn't going to love dealing with. You're going to have to go for something like a Freeze Dry, right? Because that's really the most that you can get for damage, while the Solgaleo is able to sit pretty comfortably and go for something like another Max Rockfall and take enough damage to knock out that Yveltal, which is really its biggest threat on the field. I'm getting the hiccups mid-round. I'm so excited. Gonna see the Shuka Berry though on this Amoonguss, so it's gonna be taking this Oblivion Wing at less damage than it possibly would, thanks to that super effective resistant flying type berry. Gonna gain a little bit of HP back though for this Yveltal, bringing it almost up to half.
Oh, so close to getting above half, but it was not enough. We're going to see a Max Steel Spike come into the Yveltal. Is it going to be enough to knock it out? It is not. Hanging on there with 36 HP. And again, we're seeing another boost up here. So just like last game, this Solgaleo is setting itself up. We're going to see the Freeze Dry come out onto the Amoonguss, really trying to get rid of that thing as soon as possible. I always look for that 10% freeze chance. I gotta say, it always makes things very exciting. We did not see that, but whenever there's a slight pause, I kind of have a moment. I hold my breath.
Really interesting to see Giga Drain on this Amoonguss, though, as its grass type move of choice, instead of something like that Pollen Puff that we've seen, that Energy Ball we see sometimes, and even Grass, not if you're worried about your Kyogre or Groudon matchup. Yveltal, though, interesting to see. I said Shuka, I meant Cova Berry, also, my apologies. Cova Berry to stop that Oblivion Wing from doing as much damage, but that Oblivion Wing was really important because it still allowed it to survive that Max Steel Spike. This Solgaleo is all boosted up, though, from its really important Dynamax turns, so now it sits even more uncomfortable to deal with. But if you're able to move faster than it, you're still going to have to deal with this Amoonguss, who's definitely going to want to go for something like a Rage Powder, get those those Dark-type moves, that Foul Play, that Sucker Punch off of this Solgaleo especially. And you can't even throw off Sucker Punches, because half of the time this Amoonguss is going to be going for something like a Rage Powder. So it makes sense if Yveltal comes back here.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we are going to see the Amoonguss coming back in here. Solgaleo going for a Protect right here. All right, we're going to see, looks like Lapras, yep, going for that Freeze Dry, really trying to get rid of this Amoonguss. and it's not going to be enough, unfortunately, to take it out. Spores coming in. Oh, good night, Lapras. Have a good sleep right here.
Oh, absolutely. A tough thing to switch out the Yveltal, but it definitely was important. But I can see why that Spore into that Lapras was pretty obvious, you know? And then you have to deal with another Spore, possibly from your own side. Lapras, though, going to be taking its own nap. You could have swapped that Lapras into the Amoonguss, but then you're leaving your Yveltal, who's your main Solgaleo answer, vulnerable, even if that Solgaleo went for the Protect. So, you know, you have to assume that if there is a Spore, your Solgaleo is going to have to Protect to deal with something like a Sucker Punch. And now you're kind of stuck with a Rage Powder to deal with.
Oh, this is a tricky spot. A Rock Slide coming in. It is going to connect with both Pokemon here. Well, Lapras is asleep, so no worries about flinching there. And the Amoonguss, we're going to see about this paralysis. Oh, there's the flinch. Oh, no. It's always a feels bad man to see. All right, we're going to see if Lapras can wake up. That's the tricky part, is you don't want to swap out Lapras until you burn those sleep turns, because otherwise the sleep will reset, which is never a good feeling. It's a lot of tricky positioning that's going to need to be seen here.
Yeah, another Rage Powder from this Amoonguss. Not going to work on the opposing Amoonguss if it goes for a Spore on the Solgaleo. Solgaleo, though, gets to move first with that Sunsteel Strike, so going to be able to put off a big chunk of damage onto either one of these Pokemon. Trying to get rid of that Amoonguss would be huge, but this Lapras is still going to tank it and wake up, most importantly, go for another Freeze Dry onto the Amoonguss here. So Amoonguss is gone on one side, but there's still a threat on the other.
Oh yeah, there are still Pokemon in the back, but it's great to see that Lapras wake up. All right, we're gonna see that Spore, and now it's the Solgaleo's turn to go to sleep. Oh my goodness, everybody's sleeping on the job today, huh? I mean, I guess that's what happens when you have Series 12, and Amoonguss is such a powerful ally to have on your team here.
Yeah, and the rain runs out, most importantly. So if Candela, if they brought that Kyogre, it would be a great time to send that Kyogre in. You do have access to Ice Beam, so you're not going to worry too much, but you do have to deal with those Rage Powders or those Spores. So you're going to have to be firing off something like a Water Spout just to try, you know, maybe get that damage onto the Lapras if needed. But at this point right now, you could go pretty comfortably for an Ice Beam into this Amoonguss. Your Solgaleo is going to be asleep for at least this turn, so it's not going to be able to get a Sunsteel Strike off if need be. But it's at such high health right now, and it is so bulky thanks to those Max Steel Spike boosts and a couple of other boosts that I got during its Dynamax turns, that I can kind of sit right now. It's not really worried by anything that Jessica has. Jessica has to kind of pay attention to if this is the time to switch in Yveltal. Even so, if you switch in Yveltal, are you going to be taking a Water Spout? Are you going to be getting knocked out? If you switch it in, then you can't do too much here in terms of getting a ton of damage off. But Protect instead.
Yeah, Protect. We're seeing the Protect come out, and yeah, that Solgaleo getting its first turn of sleep. We are going to see the Spore come in, but, you know, that great Protect right there. So really kind of taking it slow. Oh, the Aurora Veil does run out. So that Kyogre, especially at full health, is going to be doing a lot more damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think right now you're going to see something really interesting too, which is that Perish Song is going to come out. Because this Kyogre and the Solgaleo, they have one partner Pokemon in the back. That means you're going to have to see some forced switches, which if you switch out that Solgaleo before it wakes up, it makes it really tough because it's going to come back in sleeping again.
Oh yeah, I remember that when I tried Lapras out for the first time. You know, knowing when to Perish Song is always so difficult, because yeah, you put a timer on everyone, not just your opponent, but also yourself as well. So making sure your positioning is strong. Okay, we're gonna see the Ice Beam come into the Amoonguss here. The Amoonguss does hang on. There's that Perish Song going in. So especially keeping track of who is the fastest here is going to be very important, so that we can see if it comes down to a Perish Song game. There's the Spore coming out onto the Kyogre. Good night, Kyogre.
Yeah, Candela really struggling here with all of their Pokemon getting put to sleep, but they at least have another Pokemon to switch in and out if they need to. But it makes it really tough because now you've got to deal with your Pokemon switching back in and being asleep and not being able to put pressure on, right? So you could switch out that Kyogre for whatever your last Pokemon is in the back, even if it is asleep, so that at least your Kyogre, which is your best offensive threat at this point, I think is going to be really nice. Solgaleo, you could switch the next turn because Solgaleo, I think, can tank some of these hits better instead of dealing with something like a grass type move from the Amoonguss and a freeze dry from the Lapras, because I think that's probably going to be the toughest part moving forward for Jessica, is just trying to get enough chip damage down onto these Pokemon while also protecting yourself and switching your own Pokemon out. So Kyogre switching makes sense here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to see that Raichu come out. Man, everybody's fast asleep. That's so funny to see. Oh, no, there's the Avoid and the Paralysis. Oh, RNG is not on Jessica's side right now. We are seeing the Perish Song go down one more turn. Unfortunate for that not to hit.
That is actually huge, right? Because if you, I know it went into that Solgaleo, but if you had targeted into that Raichu and then got that knockout, then that Kyogre would be forced to come back in and Solgaleo wouldn't be able to switch out. So that Solgaleo would go down in 2 turns, which would have been absolutely massive. Solgaleo, though, gets to switch this turn because that Raichu wasn't knocked out last turn and allows all of their counters for Perish Song to be reset.
Oh my goodness, that's insane. Oh, it's amazing how just one turn can make such a huge difference like that. We are going to see Zacian come back out now. Oh my goodness, yeah, lots of switching around happening here. This is definitely each player going to be needing to pay very, very close attention. Oh my goodness, I still think there's a chance for either team here to kind of take it home.
Oh no, another Hydro Pump miss as well onto that Raichu. So Raichu, Lapras is now at its last count of Perish Song, right? So Lapras you have to assume is switching or you sack it this turn. You still have all 4 Pokemon and only one of your Pokemon is paralyzed, which is that Amoonguss. So you still have a lot more movement and viability, whereas the Pokemon on Candela's side now have to deal with maybe another turn of sleep. This Raichu has a chance to wake up. Kyogre, though, I think is, it's going to be tough for these Pokemon to really wake up this turn, especially because you don't, that 3 turns guaranteed makes it pretty tough kind of moving forward. So you can still go for something like a really nice Behemoth Blade here into this Kyogre, get a bunch of damage off, make it so that if it does wake up and go for a Water Spout, it's not going to be able to do nearly as much damage. You could sack Lapras here just through that Perish Song, just allow it to take some big damage. Raichu, though, going to switch here for Candela.
Yeah, we're going to see the Solgaleo come back out. Honestly, this is the key here, continuing to pivot around. Lapras going to switch out here to make sure that it doesn't get hit by its own Perish Song. Amoonguss going to come out to play. All right, Kyogre's not going to wake up this turn. And there's the Sacred Sword coming in on the Solgaleo. Does a good amount of damage, but not enough, and the rain does stop. Now, there is still an opportunity for this Kyogre to swap out and reset that rain later.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's also a chance for another Spore if either of these Pokemon wake up. Because this Amoonguss is slower than both of them, it does kind of have to make a judgment call here, right? Where you have to worry first about getting through paralysis, which it has already struggled to do, first of all. But you do have the opportunity to maybe go for another Spore. Just continue to completely neuter the output of both of these Pokemon. And even if Raichu comes back in, Raichu is also still asleep, but Solgaleo gets to wake up and goes pretty comfortably safe here this turn.
Yeah, there's that Protect, that Sacred Sword, not going to touch this Solgaleo just yet. All right, and Kyogre wakes up too this turn, going for a Calm Mind. Oh man, getting that boost right there. What do you think of that?
So that Calm Mind Kyogre we've seen quite a lot, right? Especially in Series 10 is where it started to become popular. Running that Leftovers, and Amoonguss gets paralyzed, so it can't get that Spore off on Kyogre, which is absolutely huge because now this Kyogre has options for another Water Spout, right? And do a ton of damage onto this Zacian, especially with that Calm Mind boost. If it goes into that Amoonguss as well, it does a decent chunk, not really all that much because Amoonguss can tank it very comfortably, but still have the option to go for an Ice Beam later on in the game because it's carrying Leftovers. It's not locked into a Choice Scarf of any sort, so it's it's got that maneuverability to move around as long as that Solgaleo as well. Also having some moves that maybe could do some damage. Sacred Sword though into Kyogre, gonna neuter that output of the Water Spout as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to get as much chip as possible on that Kyogre so that it does not hurt as much. We are going to see the Sunsteel Strike come in onto the Amoonguss. That Amoonguss hanging on there. Oh, there's the Ice Beam, I assume, into this Amoonguss right here as well to finish the job. And there it goes. A well-fought battle, Amoonguss. And it was a crit. I'm not sure if that crit mattered there, though.
I'm not sure if it did either. I think it was pretty close either way. Yeah. So having that Leftovers Kyogre, get that HP back up, especially using that Ice Beam is huge because now you don't have to worry about going to sleep again. This does allow the Yveltal to come back in though and maybe get a little bit of Sucker Punch damage. There is no way to redirect it at this point. Raichu's still asleep in the back, so if Raichu comes in, you can't fake it out at this point right now. And if you're Solgaleo, you probably have to go for a Protect just to try and not get, go for a Protect and go for something like a Water Spout or an Ice Beam into this Yveltal. Yveltal could go for something like an Oblivion Wing into the Kyogre to call that Protect and try and allow that Solgaleo to make sure that it doesn't get any damage off this turn, but it's a bit of a call, right? Because then if you call that Solgaleo not going for an attack this turn, but it does go for that Protect. So we'll see what happens with Jessica, what her choices were.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we are going to see the Sacred Sword come in onto that Kyogre, continuing to do some more damage. It was also interesting to note about the timer that with 3 minutes remaining, there's extra pressure added to our opponents here. Is the Kyogre going to get knocked out? Unfortunately not. Yveltal going to get a bit of HP back, though hang on as much as possible. But yeah, okay, we're going to see the Ice Beam come in, I assume, onto the Yveltal. Yep, it's onto the Yveltal, and that knocks it out. Ooh. Goodbye,
Yeah, that
Bacon Bird.
Calm Mind paying dividends right there for that Yveltal, or for that Kyogre, right? Because we saw that it didn't get enough to knock out in game 1, but having that special attack boost was absolutely huge, and that special defense boost, right? Because it wasn't able to get knocked out from that Oblivion Wing, and that Yveltal wasn't able to get enough HP back. So now the Solgaleo can go for some pretty comfortable Sunsteel strikes. You can go for a Water Spout, I think. Not really a great idea, but you can go... Actually, that is it right there. That is the end of the timer. So my brain is hard keeping track of the timer there, but a really great win for Jessica moving forward. So that is a tough end game to play towards. Playing to timer is really tough, especially when you're trying to track sleep turns and perish song turns, and also trying to hit that mind game of, oh, can I hit this Kyogre with Oblivion Wing and assume that the Solgaleo is going to protect, because if I'm wrong and it rock slides, then I lose both of my Pokemon. So a really smart end game played through there. Some really nice predictions.